Welcome to The Road Less Traveled with Tiffany Rosenbaum. This podcast is about sharing the success and failure of entrepreneurs. Join in and learn from others' mistakes so you don't have to go through the same hardships in business. Now let's welcome your host, business coach, real estate investor, and proud wife and mom, Tiffany Rosenbaum.
Sam, I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today and talk about your journey. But let's start because your journey is one that I think is very interesting, and I would love for you to start actually earlier in your journey to tell us a little bit about your life, and then we can talk about your business.
Sure. So let's start with just my family unit.
Okay.
When I was born, my mom and I guess my mom, dad, all of our family, we were living in my grandma's living room and a little 12-foot trailer out in the parking pad, and I was born in my grandma's living room. So my parents, the whole desire to be debt-free and dead broke, that's not their goal, but that ends up what happening. But so 7th of 11 kids. So I was the 7th child out of 11, born in my grandma's living room. Shortly thereafter, moved into a house, 340 East Main, Grantsville, Utah. You can go look it up on Google Earth. And at the time, the house only had a foundation for a single-story building, but the people who owned it before us tried to build a second story on top of it. And so when we bought it, it was had been condemned by the city because it wasn't built right. And we had to dig out each section of the foundation to fortify it so we could finish the top story.
The footers, because I own a maintenance company. If you don't have strong enough footers, it sinks, and then you just it doesn't sustain it.
Yeah, and it was built out of like ammo boxes. That was the foundation in the walls of that building. Anyways, it's a crazy building. That's how I was like born, raised, put in that house. And I remember for the beginning part of my life, most of us slept in one room all on the floor. And then we had my oldest brothers, they slept out in the camper on the side of the house. And then eventually, once we got enough of the house finished, then 4 or 5 of us kids moved underneath the stairs. And
wow.
and then it was just like mattresses there. And then when I was about 4 or 5-ish, I don't know exactly the years, but this is as my memory serves. And if any family members want to dispute it, they can. That's fine. But I don't have the best memory. All I know is my experience. And I think that's a big key point to highlight is so often people argue over the events and like, well, that's not factually what happened. Guess what? It's how I experienced it, and whether the facts are that way or not doesn't matter. Just like in your life, the facts of your life don't matter, but your perception and your experience matters. And so negating the facts or choosing to be super technical doesn't benefit you or anybody else in your life most of the time. Sometimes it's good, but most of the time it's like deal with your perception. So my perception was that my brother that's just older than me, myself, and my sister just younger than me, my mom took us to California and basically told my dad that she needed a house to live in, or it was gonna be the end of the family and put us all up for adoption or whatever. That's what's my memory of this. So 4 or 5 years old, and we went to California or Vegas, and my dad moved all of everything out of the house, put it under a blue tarp out back so he could finish the base level of the house. Meanwhile, that got infested with bugs.
Oh.
And this matters. I'm only going into depth here because it matters on my entrepreneurial journey. So that happens. By the time we were probably 7 years old, I was 7, the house pretty much got finished. And then when we were 9, we moved up to Idaho because my dad lost his job. Or didn't lose his job. They told him that he needed to move or he was going to lose his job.
Gotcha. And
so he took them at their word, and we moved to Idaho. This whole time we were homeschooled, never really went to public school except for maybe 6 months of Head Start. And that's a story of itself, so we can go back to that, but I'm going to pass over it right now. So we go to Idaho. I don't like doing homework. I'm dyslexic a little bit and just was never into the homework scene. So by the time I was 11, I had said, hey, parents, I don't really want to do this anymore. So they said, you either have to go get a full-time job or do homework. And I chose to go get a job.
How old were you?
11. I don't know if it was
goodness.
legal, but I know I paid taxes, or at least they took taxes out of my paycheck. I don't know if it actually went to the state or not, or the government. But yeah, started working in a honey extracting plant, moving 50-pound boxes of honey and decapitating the honey so we could harvest it. And did that for 3 years. Really rough on my hands. Didn't enjoy that. Funny story there. I like to talk a lot, like probably more than most people. Love the sound of my own voice, and loved it so much at that time that one of the bosses was like, dude, do you ever shut up? And I was like, why would I shut up? So finally he's like, I will give you an extra $5 an hour. So he's going to double my wage for a day if I could be quiet for the entire day. Like come in and not say a word the entire day. And I was like, oh, I've got this, So going right at the end of the day, he steps out and I was not thinking. And I was like, hey, can you grab that for me? Asking one of my coworkers. And everybody just looked at me like, you screwed it up. And then they're like, it was so nice, we're not even going to tell him. And so I did get paid for being quiet. So that's another area of marketing. Like you get in business, sometimes you stop at the first no. And the truth is you need to go until somebody pays you to leave. And that's okay. Like sometimes you got to be so aggressive. I don't like the word aggressive, but so certain about what you're trying to accomplish that people would rather pay you to unsubscribe from your list. Are you that decided that what you're offering is of value and people need to hear you out? Or are you just going to passively like, maybe if it makes sense, I'll do it? Or are you saying, no, this is actually value and you're either going to have to pay me not to be here or you're going to listen. And that's just like a mentality thing. I don't know that you ever actually do that to somebody, but are you that committed to your cause? And so these are like the little lessons of entrepreneurship that I think really impacted me. I left there, did bricklaying, and then went into construction. When I was 14, 15 years old, some things were changing in the household as far as my parents and their belief in God, and I decided that I wanted to keep believing in God. And so I moved out with my second oldest brother, and I started making lamps. So that was also kind of an entrepreneurial thing that I did, and working with my second oldest brother as a handyman, which is kind of funny that I'm on your podcast, but that's why I don't really love property management. Like, no chance of me ever wanting to be in the property management space. And like, I did that. And I'm sure it could be done way better than what we did it as, but it was horrible. I was like, there's got to be better, easier ways to make money than this. So I haven't done a lot in real estate since then, but I understand the value of it. I'm not against it. It's just like I would rather be an investor than a doer in the real estate market. That's just me personally. I know a lot of people make money doing other things, but that's just me.
No, you make a lot of money investing in real estate. That's where,
yeah. The doer of it, it's like we need good doers, but that's just not for me.
That's why people should hire a property manager, so it says passive income, because a lot of people, I'm totally going off on a tangent on here, but a lot of people, they get into it and then they don't know the laws, they don't know how to streamline it, and so it becomes chaos. And then there's I was talking to my father-in-law, and he's like, I never want to do that again. My dad would have me on roofs, and then they'd have me go pick up rent from the door, and it was like I was always fighting him, and then the tenant would say they'd pay, and it's like, no. And that's all chaos. If it's done right, it can be very streamlined, and like it can be a process of business that creates income. But yes, I see a lot of that.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing, like provide a good service, which you do, and then go and create a business out of it rather than a hobby. And I think most people run hobbies or they call them self-employed businesses, but they're not businesses, they're hobbies. And it's a stressful hobby. That's all.
Yes. No, it's a hobby. It is a stressful hobby. And like you said there, most businesses, entrepreneurs or hobbyists, when they do that, they're making less than minimum wage half the time.
Yeah, we made like $2 an hour on one of the basements we did. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
It was right during the recession, 2008. Everything that could go wrong on a job went wrong on a job. And we're just like, this is miserable. And it was miserable. And then, so that sucked. Then I went and did summer sales, door to door, sold pest control. So that's where all the bugs come back. Like, I'm absolutely passionate about pest control, and I will still sell it to anybody who asks for it. Like, I think everybody should pay a pest control service. The stuff you can buy from Home Depot, in my opinion, does not work at the grade that it needs to work at. So, but I don't like bugs because of these little emotional things that you think, well, how is that significant in your journey? A lot of us have those little things that if we allow them to be significant in our journey can fuel us into something powerful, but most people aren't even aware of their journey, let alone allowing it to be fuel. So for me, that's where I would say that's what that experience taught me. It was like, I don't like bugs. Well, what are the other bugs in your life? What are the bugs in your life that you're so annoyed with and passionate about? Like, you don't know what it's like until you wake up with earwigs in your bed with you. Like, that's an interesting experience. Okay,
That sounds pretty interesting.
When you say, hey, the black widows are good because they're getting the other bugs, and the snakes are good because they're getting the black widows. Like, when you understand the life cycle of this system, because it's literally sleeping on the floor, the third floor, the one underneath the main floor, the crawl space, and you like have to operate around these things, then you think, man, there's got to be a better way to live. But what are those bugs in your life? What are the things in your life that God gave you, the experiences? And that's where, for me, legacy comes in. It's not about like live any particular legacy, but what experience did you have that only you had, the perception that only you. I'm 7th of 11. We all perceive our life differently. All of us siblings are in different businesses because of what we perceived about our childhood and what we want to change in the world as an outcome of it. So the events were the same, but the experiences and the perceptions of those events were so different. So we all came out with wildly different passions of how to help the world. And for me, that was one that's really passionate about. And so then I was out selling pest control, and at the same time, I realized it wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted. Leaving my home for 3 or 4 months out of the year, taking my wife, my kids, uprooting everybody during the time when everybody else has off, summertime. I didn't want to do that. So I said, okay, well, what else could I do? I also don't know how money works, but I want to have this life. So I was studying neuropsychology to try and figure out how I could help people avoid anxiety, depression, suicide, domestic violence, a lot of things that I had experienced in my childhood due to just life. And it was there that I discovered that most of the socioeconomic issues that I care about are actually more common. They're not caused by, but they're more common in low-income households. Because when somebody's in a fearful state, then they choose to respond in either fight or flight. And that fight could be anger, and anger often turns into violence towards themselves, which is self-harming, depression, anxiety, or violence towards others, which now you're abusing somebody else. And so for me, my mission to teach people how money works has really been focused on saving families, saving children, saving wives, saving husbands. Like, that's the cause of it. And when I saw that in studying neuropsychology, I could take 2 routes. You can go the reparative route, trying to fix stuff that's already been broken, or you can go the preventative route. And that's true in all industries. You can
100%.
go the medical space, you can go to be a doctor and repair people who are broken, or you can go into the fitness space and help people be healthy. You can go housing, you can go to new builds and just track home it and make tons of millions of dollars, or you can go rebuild and fix and flip and property management. And both are great industries. We need both sides of the industry. I decided I would rather be on the preventative side of the industry of the social issues that I care about rather than the reparative side. We need both, but one gives you more freedom. And if you're in the preventative space, generally you have more freedom because it's not urgent. Whereas if you're on the reparative side of something, restoration, somebody's has a fire, they have a flood, you got to go there when it's happening. So it's this urgency. I don't like being in urgent type environments. And so I chose the preventative side of life. And that's where I got to where I am right now.
Yeah, well, what you said is very important, because the money can't make you happy and it can't make a family last, but the lack of it can destroy it. And they say the number one reason for divorce, or the number one reason why families have issues, is the lack of money. And it's because what you said is, when you have a lack of money, your stressors, how you react to things is fight or flight a lot of times. And when you're making a decision in fight or flight, you're not making the correct one 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10, you're just trying to keep your head above water, and keeping your head above water only lasts so long. And so tell us a little bit about your journey of what you're doing now.
So the biggest thing that I've learned about this, I'm going to even take what you said one step farther, because I don't think money is the issue. I think knowing how money works is a bigger issue. Like, actual understanding financial literacy is the real issue. Because there's people, and you probably know people, I know tons of people who are making millions of dollars a year and never learned how to make money. They learned how to generate money, but they never learned how money works, and so they're still living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh, yes.
But those people, when they miss a paycheck, the fall is a lot harder than somebody who's making maybe $40,000 a year. If they miss a paycheck, it's inconvenient, but the fall is not as hard. Fall of $4,000 versus $400,000, it's a different fall of income. And so financial literacy is the real gauge. I have a sister who from when she was 16 years old, she's never had less than $10,000 in her bank account. And she worked at the local burger joint. She sold bread. Like, she just worked, and she always made sure she had money. Then there's other siblings who, I shouldn't say siblings, other people that I know who are live paycheck to paycheck. And it's like, what's the lesson? The lesson is, did you understand how money works, and did you choose to manage it wisely? And that's with anything. That's with food. That's with business. That's with relationships. That's with faith. Do you understand why you're doing something, or are you just like making lots of money? I'm a $4 million a year earner. Wonderful. How much of that actually goes to your family? And if you're spending all of it just to get out of taxes, then you're leaving yourself with nothing. And so a big part of what I do is I generally ask people, how do you want to be remembered? And if you ask somebody that, most people have never even considered it, so they can't answer it right away. But once they do, it's generally, I want to be remembered by my family a certain way. I want to be remembered in my community. I want to be remembered in my faith. Then you ask them, what would somebody who wants to be remembered that way, how would they be living their life? Well, they'd probably be doing X, Y, Z. So they draw this really beautiful picture. And then you say, okay, well, how are you living your life? Are those the same thing? Like, no, not really. Well, why not? And inevitably, there's two reasons. Either there's not enough time or resources, or they don't believe they have enough time or don't believe they have enough resources. And this kind of goes into what we were talking about before the podcast. Everybody has the same 24 hours. Just because somebody seems like they're more successful than you, they all started with the same 24 hours. They all came out of their mom screaming, butt naked. Like, they didn't have anything. We all started in the same spot. Yep. And so some people say, well, my skin color is different, or my socioeconomic background's different, my language patterns are different. Hey, guess what? That's true. I'm not going to negate some of those things that are hurdles, but if there's an example of somebody who overcame those hurdles, then it can't be your excuse. Yep. I mean, it can be an excuse, but it can't be the reason you didn't win. Because if somebody overcame it with those same circumstances, then you can too. And so stop looking for ways to be responsible and start looking for ways to be accountable. Like, account for what you do have and make the most of what you do have. If you're responsible, you're just responding to outward stimulus and you're just a victim. So I want to help people understand their time and like manage their time better. And then their resources. Sometimes you need money, but Mother Teresa wasn't super wealthy, but she still had a massive impact. She left a big legacy because she knew how to mobilize people who had money to a cause. And there's a lot of money to be made, or just a lot of happiness to be had in mobilizing the right people. You don't have to have money yourself, as long as you can have people, if you know people who have money, and mobilize them to a good cause. Generally, you'll be compensated for the value that you provide to society. And if you're thinking about what other people want more, then you're generally going to have more money in your own life.
So I was on a previous podcast, and she said something that really hit me. You either have reasons or results. And when people say they don't have time, 9 times out of 10, they're not prioritizing their time, and it's not important to them. Because, like you said, everybody has 24 hours. So they get to choose what they do with their time. How they do it, how many times do we go home and watch TV, or how many times are you on the couch, or how many times are you scrolling through Instagram? 9 times out of 10, someone is on their phone at least 8 hours a day. Okay, so if you're on your phone 8 hours a day, you have a choice. You can be on your phone for 8 hours a day, or you can be doing a side hobby or something to be able to do that. The next thing that you said that was really important, I think people don't know how to live beneath their means. They see what's on social media and they want what the Joneses have. That's what the phrase is. And step one, I find, and people that don't know how to understand money or need to understand money, they have to learn how to live beneath their means. They have to learn, no matter where you're at. When I was, I moved to Arizona and I ended up on food storage. And I was unplugging the fridge. I was turning off the heat. It was 45 degrees in my home. But it was like, I need to live beneath. We had nothing, but living beneath my means was we're on food surge. We don't go shopping. We don't do anything until we can get into a way to have some money coming in. And no matter where you're at, I don't care if you're on stamps. I really don't. You have to learn not to want what the Joneses have and learn to live beneath your means. And don't get me wrong, for some people, that is so incredibly hard because you're already at the bottom. And when you're at the bottom, that takes a lot of guts to go even a little bit below that.
Well, I think that what's part about the reason I don't say time and money is because some people look at money as a gauge, but it really comes down to resources. Let's say you are on the bottom. You have no money. You're living paycheck to paycheck, or not even paycheck to paycheck. You have no job. Humans generally by nature are survivors. And so like we're not going to just sit and die unless we have a zero drive to do anything better. But there's food kitchens that will give you food. Mm-hmm. Like you should not be hungry in Arizona, in America, in anywhere pretty much. Like you can go get to a food pantry and go get enough food to sustain yourself. I think, like you mentioned, the keeping up with Joneses, a lot of people think we just need more food than we do. I think most of the high performers I know, you think, well, now they have money, they can go buy whatever food they want. I eat once a day, maybe twice, like on a good day, maybe twice. But it's like we aren't eating tons and tons and tons of calories. Most people are not gorging themselves. The highest performers, they actually like are in tune with their body, and they're not overeating, and they found they don't need to spend their money on food. And if they do it, they're spending on good food, but they're not like overeating. Where you go into a lot of poverty-stricken places, they're like, well, that's something that I can control, and it makes me feel like I have value if I can eat it. And so they eat their value, they wear their value, they watch their value. I mean, they've got massive TVs, they've got nice cars, but their AC doesn't work. And it's because they want to be able to see, and it's a psychological problem where you feel that's a.
My background is psychology.
So I want to say something else.
Say it. No,
okay.
I was just going to say Drew Manning said it perfectly. I was on a podcast with him, and he said food is the most accessible drug to us. Mm-hmm. And because you're talking about psychology, I love psychology. And food gives us dopamine. And so people go into that to feel better. And what you said is very important because the high performers, if you realize, they understand health is very important. So they're not going into the pantry when they don't feel good. They're going to the gym. They're going on a walk. They understand that what's going to make me get out of this mindset or what's going to change my mindset right now is being active, not that pantry. Because that pantry, it'll give you the dopamine hit for about 30 seconds. And then about 5 minutes later, you're going to feel horrible. And so it's that psychology behind the food and the psychology behind the mindset to go, that's a quick fix, and we got to get rid of the quick fixes. It actually takes a long time to fix the problems that we need to fix. Mm-hmm. It's not an overnight process. It's a period of time that makes us better.
Yeah, and like to see the results, I think that most of the fix comes in the decision to do it, though, and most people don't know how to decide things. But so a funny story of going back when I had my first job making $5 an hour at this honey extracting plant, because we grew up. It's kind of interesting. We grew up very well, as in we always had everything we needed. My parents, they lived on like food storage, or we canned, or we gardened, or like ultimately it was a very, very healthy lifestyle, but it didn't look like other people's lifestyles.
Wait, you said it's a healthy lifestyle. I saw the house that you moved into. You showed me a picture. I was very impressed because one of the first things I said was, like, that's your mentality. Like, you look for the positive, which is amazing, and that's a good thing. But I don't think people get a picture of what you grew up in. Like, that house had holes in the exterior walls.
I'll send you the pictures. You can put it on the video.
I mean, it was amazing, like, your mindset behind this, that you had everything you needed, when in reality, you didn't have indoor plumbing. You didn't have these things. And that says a lot about your mindset, which is amazing.
Yeah, well, I don't know that I felt that way when I was a child, but now the thing is, now I'm a parent. I'm like, man, my parents did really awesome, and that's my parents, when they decided they were gonna have kids. Before they had any kids, they wanted one, then they wanted 18, then they wanted one or whatever. Anyways, I don't know. Ask my mom. But they decided that they wanted us all to be independent and be able to provide for ourselves if they were no longer around by the age of 14.
Wow.
And so we were raised kind of on, like, I would consider like an accelerated maturity schedule, where we were driven to be productive at a certain, like, at a younger level. And as a child, I actually resented a lot of that. And I was like, man, I don't like the fact that there's no money for anything, that I have to work for my friends aren't working for everything. They're all getting whatever they need. But now as a parent, I'm like, how do I train my kids to be productive? It's annoying when they're entitled. Why don't I get this? When are you going to make me dinner? I'm like, dude, I was making breakfast for the whole 12, I don't know, probably 10 of us at that point when I was like 6 or 7 years old. We'd make a big pot of oatmeal or cracked wheat, which is horrible.
If anybody's had cracked wheat, it's not good.
Cracked wheat is horrible.
I've had it.
That is horrible. But that's the things we grew up on. But if you think of like from a health perspective, cracked wheat is not unhealthy. Like we grew up eating healthy food. Cornmeal, farina, or cream of wheat, oatmeal. Like we grew up eating pretty good food, real beans, real grains, and we would soak them, sprouts. Like we ate good. We gardened our food. So there was a lot of those things that my parents did really, really well. Well, as I started earning my own income, I was like, I want what I want. And so my dad got us all a credit card. This is another thing that most parents probably don't do. But my dad got us pretty much all a credit card by the time we were like 12 years old. And he would, like, as an authorized signer, and he would be using those cards for his bills. So by the time we turned 18, I think almost all of us had a credit score of like 800, like with years of history.
Wow.
Because he was managing that for us. And it's like, that's a gift that most people don't even think about. I don't even think about it that often. But that was a big gift, like giving somebody an 800 credit score, not a fake one, but with like real history. When they turn 18, that's a big deal as far as your ability to operate in the world of credit. So that happened. But from 15, 16, 17, I would go shopping because I like shopping. I like clothes. It's one of the things that, like, it's a guilty pleasure of mine if I did it more. So I would go and buy all these clothes, and I had my closet full of clothes, and half of them I hadn't worn, but I just had them. And I liked having them because it was like, that was where I was like, hey, I have enough income that I can buy my own things. And that was a kind of a prideful statement of me doing that. And then the movie Confessions of a Shopaholic came out. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I have not.
You got to go watch it. She's smiling over there. It's a hilarious show, but it wasn't funny to me because I was like watching my life and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm addicted to just being able to buy it, to like swiping the credit card and like, I bought that. That was where I was getting my value or my self-esteem was from the ability to buy that. Even though like I had the ability to save, but I didn't choose the ability to save. I chose the ability of like, I can buy that. I can buy that. I can buy that. And so I ended up with like, a closet full of clothes. Sometimes like some of my siblings, they still wear the clothes that I bought that never fit me. Like I grew out of them before they could, and I left them with tags on them. But it took, for my own journey of financial discipline, I had to leave my wallet at home because I would still go shopping, but I'd leave my wallet at home. But when I'd go with friends, I'm like, hey, just buy this for me and I'll pay you back, So it took me probably 6 months before I could go to a store with my money and not spend it, and gain that level of control over my spending habits. And that's like, I was younger. It wasn't like I was an adult, but that's not the easiest thing for a lot of people to be able to go and not impulse buy. And one of the things we teach people, we did it, you can Google this, but the average, let me just ask you, because you're here. What do you think the average annual amount of money is spent on unused groceries?
Oh my goodness.
So they overbought, essentially. They threw it away, they overbought. What do you think the annual amount is for the average American household?
Oh, for the average, just one household then? The
one
average?
Household.
I'm guessing in the hundreds of thousands because of...
Well, they can't spend hundreds of thousands. Most people only make $40,000 a year.
Oh,
so
wait.
like,
oh, bad.
Yeah, you're showing your income, which is good, but like most people can't spend hundreds of thousands on groceries.
Thousands though, because people, like if you go to Costco, 9 times out of 10, you're overbuying. If you go to a store, you walk out in the thousands.
Yeah, so it's like $3,700 a year. The average family is overbuying. That's $300 a month. If you're like 35 years old and you put $300 a month away at an 8% interest rate, that's over like $1 million worth of assets that you could have, but you spent on unused groceries. Mm-hmm. Unused groceries. Unused gym memberships, $80 a month. that people are paying. Many people I know pay for 2 or 3 gyms. They pay for Lifetime. They pay for EOS. They pay for Mountainside because they're like, I don't know where I want to work out today. Or they say, oh,
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Or they
So I'm a
say,
cheapskate when it comes to that.
or they say, well, it's marketing for my business because I'm going to meet people. I'm going to network at the gym, so I just choose which one I want to go to. I'm like, dude, you can justify anything if you want to.
Yeah.
But unused gym memberships, that's a real thing. Interest on credit cards, $200 a month on average. And I meet with clients all the time, and it's like you're paying 28% interest on credit cards, and it's only on $10,000. It's not like you have like loads and loads of credit card debt, but $10,000, that's $2,000. I said about 24. Well, it's $2,000 a year.
You cut that credit card up if you can't pay it off.
Maybe, or just better understand how to use credit cards.
No, I agree. I have credit cards, but I pay it off every single month like a debit card. I use it more like a debit card because if you're paying 28% interest rate, you're getting killed.
Losing. You are.
I mean,
so those people, they say, well, I'm going to pay it off. I'm going to pay it off. Well, these people, they only have an extra $200 a month to pay it off. You can simply balance transfer credit cards from one credit card to another credit card. For 21 months, most cards balance transfer it over. So that costs you to do that's 3% balance transfer charge. So $300 on $10,000. So you now have $300 of interest over the next 21 months. It's like $16 a month of interest versus $200.
Yep.
Now you're still making the same payment, but now you're paying actually $200 towards getting out of debt, and you're out of debt in 2 or 3 years. So it's like understanding how the system works is really more valuable than saying, oh, the system's bad or don't use it. It's like understanding how it works. Donald Trump doesn't care about, and you probably don't care about it. Like you don't care about paying interest on debt for certain things. If you know that if you're paying 8% mortgage and you're charging 12% and you're earning a positive arbitrage on that money, you don't care about the debt. The debt is non-consequential. So the issue with the credit cards is that people are not aware of how to maximize the value and the benefit of it. I know people who flip houses, and they'll go in, they'll spend $100,000 on their credit card with cash advances and everything, and they're paying 22% interest on their credit card, whatever. And you might think, that's crazy. Well, in 3 months, they made $80,000 selling that piece of real estate after they used it to repair. So even net of all the cost, they still made $70,000.
Yep.
Would you trade 28% interest for 3 months to earn $70,000? Any day of the week, right? So it's like, it's not whether it's bad or not. People have this mental belief that interest is bad. And I think it comes from there's 2 things. So in a scenario, let's go back. How many debt cards have you ever heard of?
Debt cards?
Yeah.
I'm against debt unless it's making me money.
I understand, but like, have you ever heard of a debt card?
No.
Me neither, because they don't exist. There's credit cards. Well, what's credit? Credit is an extension of trust.
Yeah.
Okay? So if I'm extending trust to you, guess what happens when a credit card company, a bank, when they stop believing you're going to pay that back? What happens?
Shut it down.
They shut it down, goes into collections, they stop charging you interest, it stops growing. So when they lose confidence in you, then it's gone. So
But they destroy your credit in the process.
Well, that's another conversation, another topic.
Yeah.
But the point is, they didn't destroy your credit. They let people know that person can't be trusted. So here's the deal. If you're not going to make good on it, but are you ever in debt to somebody, or are you in credit to them? Here's the question. Because if you're in debt, that's an internal belief that you can't make good on the promise to pay back. That's it. That's a personal belief because you're probably, quote unquote, in debt as long as it makes you money. So you're confident that you have the ability to cover your debts, and so it doesn't emotionally feel like a debt. But when you ask somebody, how do they feel about debt? Prison, horrible, gut-wrenching, sick to my stomach, all these things. Those are all feelings, which means debt is a feeling. When I ask you, how do you feel about all the debt that you're in? Do you feel sick to your stomach about it? You're like, I feel great, baby, because it's earning me money.
Yeah.
Right? So debt is purely a feeling. It has nothing to do with a balance sheet. It has everything to do with your confidence in your ability to pay
It's a
it back.
psychology belief behind it. And most people don't understand how money works, so that's where you come in.
And so they're sitting there stressing about this thing. It's like, look, stop worrying. The saying is where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're focusing on how you're in lack, then you're going to continue to feel like you're in lack, and that's going to compound on itself, and you're going to become less and less productive as a human thinking about how much you're unproductive. If instead you say, hey, I've got this person who extended me credit. They gave me the experiences. They allowed my family to eat a week earlier than I probably would have been able to if I didn't have their trust and confidence. Man, I'm so grateful for them. Of course, I'm going to give them a little bonus for for extending their capital. Why would we go to these grocery store or these things and we tip waiters, we tip waitresses, we tip people all the time? Why are we upset about tipping the credit card company? They extended something to you. They gave you the belief and trust that you were going to pay something back, and they're just asking for a little bit in return. That's not a big deal. It's how do you feel about it?
You just have to be able to pay it back.
You do have to be able to pay it back. But here's the thing. In America, what happens if you can't pay it back?
Well, there's a lot of things that can happen there.
Sort of, but like you're almost never going to go to jail. You're going to go through bankruptcy, which is not good. I would never recommend it to anybody.
Yep.
But it's like a slap on the wrist economically. Like it's like, don't do that. Don't pay your debts. Be an honorable person. But like the worst case scenario in America is really not that bad. So from an entrepreneur perspective, is it worth taking a risk to become an entrepreneur? Because so many people, they sit on the sidelines of an entrepreneurship and say, I can never take that risk because it might destroy my family. I might have not any money. I might not work out. How many times have you might not worked out? For me, lots of times.
Quite a few times.
There's been many times where I'm like, I have money, but that thing better pay out or it's not going to be good. And then it pays out. And you're like, okay. Or it doesn't pay out and you say, okay, I guess I thought I was going to be bankrupt. I thought I was going to do this, but then what happens is it forces you back into finding out how to be more resourceful. And you get more resourceful. You make things run cleaner, thinner, leaner, and then pretty soon, you're like, man, that actually really helped me that didn't pay out.
Well, because you learned from it.
Because it made my business better.
Right. You took it as a learning opportunity instead of something horrible. Like, I remember the first time we were signing the docs on some properties, and it was the first time I was ever signing, and it was like scary as crap. And I remember my husband and I walking in the living room, and I'm a God-fearing person, so I was just crying, and I just knelt down and said, if this goes bad, I'm screwed. Like literally, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. Like, because I'm a big believer you pay your debts, because if you don't, it can set you back horribly if you don't. And so I sat there and we just said, you know what? Our backs up are against the wall at this point. Let's just do it. Whatever happens, happens. And we'll just work our tail end off to make it work good. And it worked great. But were there mistakes made in the process? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, did it work optimally? No. Probably not. But so many people are scared of a less than optimal situation, or they see these like perfect scenarios being published out there. It's like, I know a lot of real estate investors. I don't know one real estate investor who's never lost money on a deal. Unless you're the only one. You've never lost ever on a deal.
I've never lost.
Well, that's pretty amazing. That's good for you to say. You're the first person I've ever met who's
cautious.
Never lost ever on a real estate deal. That's pretty amazing. No. But most people I know, and all of my clients, everybody, they've all they have 99%, 95%, they're winning. But sometimes economics would go bad, go sideways, and they lose. And it's not like a bad thing. Everybody loses a little bit somewhere. And so understanding that if you've made up for the loss or you can account for the loss, and especially if you learn from the loss, then was it really a loss?
Exactly.
Or was it an investment, maybe a more expensive investment in education that you wanted to pay? But there's another speech I give sometimes called hindsight isn't really 20/20. Because most people don't ever go and inspect and learn from their hindsight, from the experience. They're like, oh, wash my hands, I'm done with that. That was horrible. And they move on, and they forget to actually learn from the past. So then it's like they end up repeating the same mistake. And it's like you never learned. You never inspected the past. So it's not really 20/20.
You have to inspect the past to have the 20/20. You have to inspect
you have
it.
To
you
put
have to
in
learn
the time
from
and
it.
effort.
Exactly. If you just move on and go, oh, let me wash my hands, you miss every opportunity in that failure. And if you don't learn from that failure, you can't have the great success. It's not possible. You have to learn from the failure to get better. That's how we get better. As a baby, when we're learning to crawl or we're learning to walk, how many times do we fall?
So I don't know, a lot.
I mean, a lot. And what does everybody around you say? Get back up. You got this. You got this. You got this. And every time a baby falls, they learn. And that's how they learn over and over again. Somewhere in high school, college, we're taught, oh, crap, I don't want to fail. I don't want to be a failure. But in the process, Elon Musk, I love for this. He says, how many times can we blow up to learn from it? You know? How many times can we blow up a rocket? Because we got to learn from it. And that's the mentality we should have. I'm not saying go take risky things that you have no clue about, but you have to take the risk and learn from the failures. because that's how we do get better. And if you're not willing to fail, you're not willing to get better. You don't have to be perfect to start, but you have to start to become perfect, in the process, and in the businesses, and to have success.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be a new word in the business economy other than failure, because is it really like, I don't know who said this, but like, it's only failure if you stop trying.
Yeah.
If you choose not to learn, then it's failure. But like, they're just learning experiences. And like in my life, probably 5-6 years ago, I don't know exactly when it was, but some point in my last few years, I decided in my life that there's no right and wrong, because right and wrong for me puts an emotional connection to an outcome. There's just growth. And like you, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ as my Savior, and I don't think he wants me to sit and stew over feeling negative. In fact, my belief is that from a theological perspective across all religions, the concept of Christ in Christianity, it's there in all religions, and the concept is the ability to shed negative energy, to stop focusing on it. The idea of repentance is a new view of the goal, the objective. For me, that's God, but of the objective and yourself, your orientation, and how to close the gap faster. That's the concept of repentance. And the atonement was really like, when you're teaching a child something, you have to teach it in a way that they understand. And children generally are concrete thinkers. Most individuals stay concrete thinkers, and they don't get into the ethereal. They get into just concrete. And so the concrete way of thinking in religion is, hey, you did this, you have this sin, we're going to call this thing a sin so that we can objectify it, and then I'm going to take your sin from you so that it's not yours anymore, it's mine, right? So that's important for a child to comprehend, oh, that's not mine anymore, I don't have to worry about it. But at some point, we have to also realize that, like, in the act of taking that sin, it's not Christ's either. Christ didn't sin. He just took it and stuck it in a pile of nowhereness and allowed you to stop thinking about it and stressing about it, feeling guilty and shame about it. And so if that's what the concept is, then all that's happening is our invitation to grow and not feel bad about what didn't work out, but keep having faith that we can increase in skill and temperament and becoming more like the perfect version of ourselves. Mm-hmm. In my mind, that's Jesus Christ and God. But everybody has a different definition. That's a crucial concept that so many people get stuck, and they think that feeling guilty, feeling shame is a good, healthy thing. I'm like, for me, I don't think it's healthy. It's never profited me to ruminate on my mistakes, to feel guilt or shame about what happened and what's already done. I can't change. I can act differently in the future, but I can't change what I've done in the past. It's done.
What you said is important because, and we said it before, is, okay, you make a mistake, inspect it, move on. Mm-hmm. Like, take the feeling out of it. Stop dwelling with the feeling of, oh, I'm a horrible person, or, oh, this was wrong. No. Look, what happened? Okay, it happened. How do I inspect it? How do I get better from it? How do I learn from it? How do I move on? Barbara Cochran, I go back to this all the time because I love what she says. It's not a matter if you get hit down. It's a matter of how fast you get back up. Mm-hmm. And don't dwell on it. Just move on. Because that's how we learn and grow. If we sit there and go, poor me, that all that's doing is keeping us from what we can actually create and actually build.
Yeah. So then is it really failure if it just didn't work out the way you expected it to, and you learned that there was potential holes or limitations that you weren't previously aware of? I don't consider that failure. I just think it's like, oh, that's a learning experience.
It's a mistake.
That was
learning
a learning experience.
Growth. Exactly.
It's a blind spot.
I think failure is used in a very liberal term,
right?
Because people resonate with it. But I do agree with you. It's not failure unless you quit. Michael Jordan said that. It's not failure unless you stop. That's the only way you truly get failure. But you have a book, don't you?
Yeah, it's called Fuel Your Legacy, the 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. And it was really born out of kind of this belief. I mean, all things for me, when I got to my nirvana, or my ultimate form of what I believe we all are, my divine connection, I believe, is love. That's how I define it. And as a result of that, in a world where we're on social media, and if you decide to take any hard stance on anything, you're going to have some people who like you and some people who hate you. And I actually think that that's really helpful to have contrast in life. I think contrast drives and increases our ability to serve and bless the lives of others. But the 9 pillars goes through an anecdotal story and a little bit of education, and then it invites you to journal about 3 things. These 3 different categories. I'm not going to go through all 9, but the first 2 I think are really, really powerful. The first one is your haters. So first it invites you to identify your haters. So often we think and we talk about our haters, but we don't ever put a name to their, like a face and a name to them. But like everybody in their life, they have different haters. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your kids, maybe it's your boss, maybe it's the police officer, maybe whatever it is. But like we all have people who actively, they don't just not believe in us, but they're actively trying to make us fail, or they're actively trying to get us to not try. They're actively trying to dissuade us from going for it. And I think that our haters, we need to identify who they are, and then we need to identify how will their life be better when I succeed. So rather than trying to prove my haters wrong and operating from a position of competition, contempt, or anger, what if we operated from a position of love, operated from a position of, I'm going to do this to show you that it can be done from anybody. Like the people that I grew up, the crabs in the barrel, when you try and get out and they start trying to pull you back in, most of them are not haters because they don't like you. They're haters because they don't believe in themselves. And so when we are able to act out of love and we're programming, hey, when I go succeed, I want to show my haters, the people who don't believe in themselves or me, that it can be done. And then we're creating our future. So we find out who they are. We identify how their life is going to be improved. So we're operating from a position of love and service. And then what actions can we take today to make that happen? So the first group is haters. I actually think haters are better than the next group. And the reason is haters don't believe that anybody can do what you're doing. And so like that's good because they have it's an easier person to flip. In the Bible, they talk about be hot or cold, but a lukewarm person, I'm going to spit you out. And that's so true. If you're really cold, we can turn you to heat. We can turn you to hot. If you're really hot, we can flip it the script as well. But a lukewarm person, this is what I call your believers. And your believers are the people who believe in you, but not themselves. So they say, oh, Tiffany can do it. You can do it. Sam can do it. Charlie can do it. These people, you can do it, but just not me. I think I believe in you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to sustain you. I'm going to hold you up. I'm going to shout you out. You can do it, just not me because of blah, 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 right? Those people are harder because they believe it can be done, but they've psychologically self-harmed their soul to the point that they don't believe that they are worthy of that. And so how do you help that person? Again, identify who your believers are. How is their life going to be different? How are you going to help them achieve their legacy by you achieving yours? Because if you're just on an island achieving your own legacy by yourself, I just think it's unrewarding and unfulfilling. Like being at the top by yourself actually isn't that fun. I would rather be halfway up a mountain struggling a little bit with a group of people than being at the top by myself. That's just me personally. I know some other people have competing opinions, but like I like people. I want to be around people. I like community. And so I don't want to be at the top by myself. So the believers who are like, you can do it, just not me, those are probably your family, the people that you care about the most, that let's say you make it big. What are your options at that point? You go become super successful. You either fund their life and just because you want to have friends, so you're like paying their whole way, which then entitles them and doesn't teach them anything. Or you say, sorry, you got to earn it, but they don't believe they can earn it, so they're never going to do it. And so you get stuck in this like really hard spot with your believers. So who are they? How is their life going to be better? How are you going to involve them in the journey so they actually can start recognizing they're part of it? And then again, what actions can you take today? So we go through those 3 questions with all of these 9 pillars to orient your mind and your soul towards achieving your biggest dreams out of love for the people around you and the organizations around you, rather than out of this anger motivation. I understand that there's a frequency that anger can really get people off their butt. I've never super been motivated or anything by anger. Like it's not been something that like makes me work harder personally. And so I just choose that my books are motivated out of love to help people better receive more fulfillment in their journey to building a meaningful legacy.
I love that. Your first pillar, the ones that are your haters. I liked what you said because have you read the book, The Courage to be Disliked? It's a really good book, and it talks all about that. You got to have the courage to be disliked first. And it's okay to have haters because you got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And then I think the second one that you were talking about are the ones that you're believers, but they don't believe that they can do it. I think it's important to realize that it is about community, like you talked about. It's all about helping other people and going together. It's not about just one person. It's not just about us. The successful, anybody that I've ever talked to that runs multi-billion or multi-million-dollar companies, it's all about the team. It's all about the team behind them, the people around them. Not one true entrepreneur ever says, I did it by myself. Because they didn't.
I'm a self-made millionaire. Oh, yeah, you, yourself, and all your employees.
Yeah, exactly,
or
right?
your believers or the people who supported you. You're exactly right. And I think that's what's really fascinating is a lot of people think that the gate is, that there's a gatekeeper to these people who have made it. And the only gatekeeper, just like debt, it all goes back to the same conversation. So I like money because it's a scorecard that like doesn't lie. But it's a scorecard of your emotions and your belief systems. So when I'm looking at somebody's financial situation, I'm not looking at their numbers. I mean, I'm looking at their numbers. That's what I'm actually doing. But what I'm really doing is like analyzing their personality, analyzing how the heck they operate in the world. What are their beliefs? Because somebody who's made it, all they want, like, I shouldn't say all they want, but the majority of them, their earnest desire is to help somebody else make it too. And what frustrates them more than anything else is somebody coming and asking for help and then not acting on it. Like that's just like, I don't have the time of day for somebody who's going to waste my time. But an earnest seeker of my time, somebody who really wants to learn, I will coach you for free. All the people who are wasting my time, I'm going to charge you $100,000. But the people who really are earnest seekers, you can call me anytime and I'll help you because I want to help that person. And that's just very common with successful people is they're very, very giving people to people who are coachable and want to learn, to people who are just there to say, hey, I've got this rich friend. No, you don't. You don't have a rich friend. And so I actually started, I rebranded the SMART goals you've probably heard of, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Those are a decent way of like living a safe life, I would say. And that's fine. If you want to live a safe life, go for it. For me, I want to live a safe life, but I want to live a big life. And so for me, the SMART goals it has to be sexy, massive, audacious, remarkable, and transparent. Right? It has to be big enough and sexy enough that it captivates your attention and other people's attention. That when they see it, hear it, think about it, they're like, how do I get involved? Okay? Like Elon Musk is a good example. He started shooting rockets into space, and then when people were like, you're failing, he's like, let's make a reel of all of our fails. That'll be fun, right? So he shows it. He makes it sexy and interesting enough. A Tesla, he gets it to orbit the Earth. Why? Why shoot thousands of dollars out there just to orbit? Why? Because it's something that captivates people's minds. So it needs to be sexy. It has to be massive enough that it requires other people's involvement. Because if it's small enough that you can do it by yourself, one, you probably won't ever do it. And two, you're definitely not going to be transparent about it. You're not going to tell people what you're going to do. You're not going to be foreshadowing like, we're going to Mars because you feel like you can do it yourself. So you don't have to tell anybody about it. You'll just wake up one day and be like, yeah, I'm on Mars. But if it's so massive that you need help, then you have to be transparent to garner support. And once that happens, you're going to get the audacious aspect where half the world says, why not focus on world hunger right now? Why are we trying to go to Mars? Why are we spending trillions of dollars to go to Mars when you could be feeding people here, right? You need that clear separation in any business and any legacy to clearly define what the mission and the objective is, right? Elon Musk isn't trying to go to Mars because he believes that just it'd be fun to be on Mars. He actually believes potentially that we need more places to be as humans. We need to explore. And that's part of like our mandate as beings is to explore our universe. So that's what he's doing. Okay? And that has haters and lovers and supporters. And then the last one is it remarkable. Have you ever been to Mount Rushmore?
A long time ago. I don't remember.
There's nothing there. There's nothing around it. There's nothing. But guess what? Because somebody decided to go carve those faces up on this giant mountain. They're not even that big. Like, they seem big in all the pictures, but when you get there, like, those are kind of, I mean, they're big, but they're not, you know? It's like, it's really far up there. But there's no other reason to go to South Dakota. Pretty much no other reason other than to go see Mount Rushmore. maybe Sturgis, but like Mount Rushmore's it. But it's so remarkable that somebody found it and they went and told the whole world about it, and people will fly into this country, get on a Greyhound bus, and drive 4 hours to the middle of nowhere. There's no resources, there's no Costco, there's no food, there's nothing. Drive all the way over there just to lay their physical eyes on those things and say, I saw that with my eyeballs. And then that's a full 8-9 hour round trip up there for maybe 30 minutes of I saw that, and it's pretty boring once you get there. I'm just saying, but it's remarkable. Is what you're doing in your life remarkable? Are people, when they hear about it, like, I want to be part of that, or at least want to watch it happen? Is it remarkable? And then the only way for all those to happen is you have to be transparent. You have to be willing to broadcast what you're going to do, what you are doing, and be transparent about your goals. And I think if you do that, then you actually have the chance of being like having a smart legacy that actually people know about and they're excited to be participants in.
I love that because it's all about what we're doing, the community, the people around us, helping people, the legacy we leave. That's why I help people do generational wealth for leaving the legacy behind. I love that. So where can people find you, Sam? Like where, if online, what's the best way to reach out to you to get a hold of you and get your help?
The best place right now is on Instagram or Facebook.
Okay.
My website apparently is down for some reason, so I've got to get that fixed. But when it's up again, it's samknickerbocker.com.
Okay.
But there on samknickerbocker.com, you can download the ebook, or you can go to Amazon and buy it. You can schedule a 20-minute conversation with me, just a phone call. You can get access to my podcast, the Fuel Your Legacy Show. So if you want to listen to Tiffany on that, then go listen there. Also, if you want to hire me to speak at your events, you can hire me there, or at least invite me, and then I'll decide if I want to come. But that's the best place. But then Facebook and Instagram, samknickerbocker.com. It's my face with a green background. Green's my favorite color, so it is what it is.
I love it. Well, green is money.
Yeah.
It's branding. I think what you said is very important. People have to learn how to understand money and what it can do for them. And that is a big problem in our society. I love what you offer. I've been on a call with you. I think you offer a lot of great things. If someone is struggling with understanding money, they can download your book on your website, and they can get a call with you, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you being on the podcast today, Sam. We appreciate what you're doing, and filling your legacy is a great thing.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in today to The Road Less Traveled. If you're organizing an event, workshop, or simply planning something exciting and would like to have Tiffany Rosenbaum join you, or want to have her on your podcast, visit TiffanyMRosenbaum.com and click on Book Tiffany to get started.